David Corenswet. That's a name that you're going to be hearing a lot in the future, and that's a name you've probably already heard a lot. If you haven't, I'm going to catch you up to speed. If you see my shirt, I'm wearing Superman because David Corenswet is our new Superman coming out in July of 2025. He's going to be playing Clark Kent slash the Man of Steel himself. A lot of people, I was very surprised, well, I wasn't very surprised because I'm just obsessed with watching TV, but had not heard of him before until like the movie Twisters, which I didn't see it. Don't judge me. I'm not watching a movie about storm watching. He was also in two shows that I like a lot. So I was watching a show with my fraternity brothers back in college, and it was called The Politician. The lead is actually Ben Platt, and then one of the co-stars in the first episode is David Corenswet as River Barkley. So River Barkley, I don't want to spoil the show for anybody, but I'll just say that we do not get to see this character a lot, and he really only had half to two-thirds of the first episode to really make an impression. And in that first episode, David Cornsweet is phenomenal, makes a very good impact, and one that immediately like cements him into the show as an unstoppable force of an actor because it's a very good performance. We were bawling our eyes out, and it's just oh my gosh, he was fantastic. There's a scene where he's giving a speech, and he just absolutely crushed every single second of the speech, and it really gets you involved in the story. And River ultimately goes away from the show, and that's when you kind of rejoin the rest of the story. But for that, like, half hour that he's fully enveloped and he's one of the main co-stars of the show, he is phenomenal. And I remembered him for a very long time after that. Like, I hope I see him in something else soon. Like a little bit later, I believe it was a little bit after COVID, or at least a little bit after COVID started. I still believe it was during COVID. But another show came out on Netflix, also made by Ryan Murphy, called Hollywood. And I was like, oh, let's see who stars in that show. And I see a picture of David Corenswet. And I go, oh, he's in this show too. Awesome. Let me watch it. So I watch it. Very different tone from The Politician. Politician is more about a high school kid who wants to run for class president of his like high school, or it looks more like a private school because everyone's rich. So he wants to run for class president because he found out, and because he wants to go to Harvard. So he needs to have like something on his resume to be able to help him get into Harvard. And from there, he wants to become president of the United States because he says Harvard, which is true, has produced more presidents than any other institution within the United States or even the world, which most people went to college in the United States if you're born in the United States. But he says he wants to go to Harvard, and River is, in the first episode, you find out that, like, he's a friend of Peyton's, which Peyton's the main character's name. He's a friend of Peyton's, but also he isn't, but also he was a love interest. Real weird dynamic. It really reminds me of all my exes where we're at now. We're not really friends, we're not really enemies, but also, like, we were in love at one time. But it's a very interesting dynamic that David Corenswet is able to portray with Ben Platt. And then moving into Hollywood, moves around a little bit because this show is, just as the name suggests, about Hollywood. This one goes back in time, while The Politician is modern day. Hollywood is set in like the 1940s era. So we're kind of traveling back in time for this show. David Corenswet plays Jack Costello, who is actually he was, I believe, in World War One, because in 1940 he's wearing his uniform. He's married and he has like a baby on the way, and he is struggling to find work. Really wants to be an actor. So he is doing these background roles and he's trying to get a lead role. And he stumbles upon this job where the guy says, "Hey, I can help you make good money to at least support your family until then." Um, so he takes this job. It's not ethical or moral per se, so he struggles with it a little bit. And he struggles with one portion of it very much. So he ends up recruiting someone else to do the job. But it's very funny show. Jim Parsons, who plays Sheldon Cooper, is also in this show. Hilarious. Has my favorite line regarding Pink's hot dogs. So please go check it out because it's hilarious. But very good show, and the reason I'm talking about these two shows in a very disorganized fashion is because these two shows showcase David Corenswet not only as an actor, not only as a very good actor, but it showcases him as a very hopeful person, and a very like well-spoken, well-oriented person. Both shows showcase his talent as being very kind and just kind of caring about humanity. And he gives a speech in The Politician where he talks about his struggles with mental health, and then he talks about genuinely caring about everyone in the room. And even if they haven't gotten along in the past, he hopes that their life is going well, and he hopes that they're ultimately able to find happiness and be happy with living their life. And in Hollywood, it's the same thing. He's just someone he's struggling, but he's ultimately trying to better himself, be a good actor, but not only that, also just find genuine happiness in Hollywood. And it's just super crazy that a couple years later, James Gunn, they say, hey, he's making a Superman movie, he's casting, and the first thought in my mind was, I'm definitely not the one who started this talk. Someone much smarter than I did, and I'm very happy they did. But I went, wait a minute, that guy, David Corenswet from The Politician in Hollywood, he should be Superman. Like, he is a phenomenal actor, and he legitimately is a very hopeful figure, and like he's a very kind person. He showed these genuine traits that Superman has towards humanity. So as soon as I saw that, I'm like, this guy should be Superman. And ultimately, I got very excited when I found out he was in the running and he had auditioned and it went really well. I was like, guys, this guy might actually get the job. Like, he is phenomenal. I'm not a casting director, and there's a reason for that. I'm not an actor. I'm not great at acting. I'm just a fat kid who says funny stuff sometimes. So there you go. But as soon as I saw it, I was like, yes, please give this to him. And then they told us on the internet it was down to the final two, and David was one of the finalists. I was very, very happy. And then I think it was like within that same week or a week later, James Gunn had fully announced that David Corenswet was given the job of being Clark Kent / Superman. And I am still jumping for joy about this. I absolutely adore David Corenswet as an actor, and I could not be more excited to see him as Superman. If you are not familiar with David Corenswet, please go check him out. Go watch The Politician. Go watch Hollywood. Honestly, just Google him and watch whatever he's in. I did some background on him. He studied in Juilliard. He graduated in 2016. Dude just graduated from one of the most prestigious acting institutions within the world within the past 10 years. It was 8 years ago, and now he is going to be headlining a Superman movie. That is beyond impressive. And I definitely think that his roles leading up to this, he has earned it. They have definitely prepared him to take this on. I am very excited. I have all of the faith in the world that if there is anybody who can pull this off, it is David Corenswet. I think he's going to be phenomenal. I can't wait for the movie to come out. I adore James Gunn as well, so I'm very, very excited to see these two working together. In my personal opinion, I'm very excited to see David Corenswet as the next Superman or Man of Steel. So, feel free to make your own opinion. But other than that, I'm Josh. I do all the satirical nerding around here, so Stop by anytime, and I'll be more than happy to talk to you about anything nerd.